towards the end of the class, right? However, if you have any pressing issues, you can raise your hand and Ashutosh will unmute you, and then you can probably ask questions. um, I'll be across this class. I'll be like using maybe a whiteboard, or maybe I'll be explaining you with the things here, right? So you will be able to see uh, uh, during the explanation, and any kind of specific notes or pointers, if I think is important, then that part of the thing, because at the end of it you understand everything, but then you have to write answers, right? So you will require to have certain notes, and those notes will be mostly maybe some of you don't like it, but then I'll be dictating and you'll need to take it down. Or maybe if when I'm telling certain examples or anecdotes or case studies, maybe then I expect you to write bare minimum whatever you could collect from the classes. However, for the major points of the course, or major, I'll make sure that you have a certain material at the end of the day, so that you have like further stuff to write in your examination, right? So for that part, I will have to dictate, and then in certain topics, uh, like few of the topics, or maybe one or two classes, it might get at times boring as well, because you need to write certain stuff, but that is important for your examination. So I think you'll have to bear with it for that period, right? And for your queries and any other assignments which I'll be giving you, I expect a response on the mail, or maybe the WhatsApp group. You have any doubts, you can okay. So you have any doubts, you can just type it in that WhatsApp group. I'll make sure to revert back within 24 hours. So that is about the technology thing, how the course and else. So now we come to the course. So this will be, as all of us know, that this will be a 4 days, 1 week, 4 days class, 6:30, approximately 1.5 to 2 hours. I'll not stretch beyond 2 hours, because this being a kind of a, because this has a bent of philosophy, this has a bent of other things as well. So at times it might not get into you after 2 hours. So that way I'll keep limit it up to 2 hours max, right? So that is the thing. The lectures will be taken, the pointers will be given through these PPTs. I'll be explaining you the stuff, and then dictation, which I told. See, this course, ethics as such, whatever paper you might have been studying till now, in general studies or your optional, there you are expected to get into the nitty gritties. Like supposedly take an example of the theory which all of you might have been aware if you are a sociology student, about that Talcott Parson, right? So you need to understand that theory, you need to get into the details. If you have any doubt, then you ask sir, and then you read various books, right? This example I intentionally gave because in this we'll also be dealing with some certain theories, right? But to an extent, right? Because if you go very detail into it, it's a standalone theory in philosophy, right? So you will have to kind of stop at certain point. So I am not here to actually make you a psychologist or a philosopher, but I'll tell you whatever is required as per ethics paper in UPSC, right? So don't, I mean, my humble request to you would be, do not do much research, unlike whatever other papers you are doing it. This paper, if you want to score good, I'm here. See, I'm here to actually, our aim is to score good, right? In mains. So taking that point of view, you have to somehow trust me that whatever I'm telling, and if at all you are not able to answer with whatever concepts you will be given, if you are not able to answer any of the questions asked in the last 9 years paper, including this particular year, of UPSC, then definitely get back to me, and I'll help you out, right? But I think that whatever tools or techniques, I generally prefer to call it as tools or techniques rather than um, certain sound theoretical background. That should kind of suffice rather than uh, going into much details in various 10 books or so. I'll also tell you about the resources in this. In this particular lecture is all about the whole envelope, the whole surrounding about this course. So this is not starting, but this is like overview of the course. So this particular paper, as I said, it's theory plus application based. Just understand it like your paper 1 and paper 2 of your optional paper. So paper 1 is mostly about theory, and the application is paper 2. In this particular paper, the first half is theory, and the second half, which is primarily the case studies or your ethics in governance part, that is the application of the first part itself, right? So that's why in the initial few lectures, maybe 7 or 8 lectures, will be intentionally going a bit slower, right? So it's not like that, and then the pace would be picked up, right? So for initial few 7 8 classes, I'll request you to focus on whatever I'm telling, and thereafter we'll take up like whatever books you say or whatever theory or whatever things like that. In fact, if you go to any of the books available in the market, uh, there are lot many things which are not as such required to I mean write the great answers for this paper, right? So we'll talk about ethical relativism, ethical absolutism, and things like that. But uh, if you see the 9 year papers, then it's not of much help. So I'll be cursorily doing those topics rather than going into a much detail of it, right? uh, so next one is there is a list of topics given for the 39 classes on the website. I think you might have seen it, but those topics might vary. I'll try and focus or keep myself limited to whatever I have illustrated or given the topic wise classes, but it would always not be possible to stick every class to that particular topic. So we can mold those things as per the requirement, right? And finally, try to attend every class. It will be important, because if you miss anyone's, then it will have repercussions. It will have repercussions in terms of understanding further classes, right? So everything, just like your paper, this particular paper is at the end of the day, if you see, is it is a very organically linked paper, right? Organically linked, I think you might understand this paper is very organically linked. Every other topic is related to the one topic is related to the other, right? So if you just miss one part, then it might have you might face difficulty in understanding the further topics, right? And similarly, I'll be giving you certain assignments in periodically in classes, and maybe 1 or 2 questions, and then in fact we'll start it from today onwards. So I'll be giving you, towards the end of this lecture, I'll be giving you one particular assignment, and you have to do it, and we'll see whatever comes out of it, right? So any kind of feedback, any kind of like, it will go actually it will start from the very basic, and towards the end it will go into a full-fledged form of answer writing, which many of you might have that query that, sir, you will be checking my answers or you will be giving feedback. It will straightforward telling you it will always not be possible for checking for 60 students every other question, but definitely we'll be taking it up as in one or two questions. If you want to show me, if you want to get any feedback for maybe any of the previous year questions, if you want to write, right, and you mail it to me, I'll take some time and give you my feedback or what else you can add upon it, right? So that is all what I plan to do. So as I said, this is a slightly different kind of a paper. So it is a very simple paper, as many of you might be knowing, or many of your seniors must have told you that there's no special study required for ethics. But I'll come into the various myths in the next slide. But then it is tricky in the sense that if because they say that all of us know everything about this paper. So if you if at all you have that kind of a perception, then it should translate into marks, right? But time and again we see that generally people hover around something from 60 to 80, right? Until and unless they have, I'm not telling you to go to one place or study, you can study it by yourself as well, like any other paper of UPSC. But then you need to understand this as a very smaller part you need to study, as in other video also I have said, and its application is larger. So it's not your big syllabus like sociology or any other optional paper, but then you need to get the spirit of it. Mark my words, whatever theory I'm telling you, they'll not ask you teleology or deontology or virtue ethics or principle of justice or care ethics or whatever I'll be telling you. They'll not be, at least these 9 years, they have directly not asked any of these theories. Let me make it very clear at the outset, right? However, any year, any one particular year, I have not find that these theories are not applicable, as in they have directly not asked Talcott Parsons, but they will ask such questions wherein you should use that person's theory, right? So but the thing is, in some of the optional papers you are trained to like know what is being asked. The whole trick of the game here is to uncover what is being asked, and that, what I'm telling you, that is through my experiences. I've recently interacted with few main students, few people who have already taken mains, and they just don't know what to write because they think it as a simple I mean, another kind of general studies paper, whatever they have learned in economics or polity or the social issues. Some way or the other, their answers reflect that. However, they kind of forget that this is an ethics paper. This has an altogether different demand. The same question, a gender question, a caste question, the answer in sociology versus the answer in general studies versus the answer in ethics, right? The same caste question would have three different kind of answers that I want to tell you, right? So for this, you need to, at least I believe you need to systematically study this paper, right? Again, as I said that this paper, last 9 years, they have asked, including this year, they have asked 130 marks of theory and 120 marks of case studies. So there are generally 13 questions in theory, and some of this may be repetitive to you if you would have gone through my videos or if you have attended mains, but just for the benefit of everyone, uh, 13 questions for theories and six questions in case studies. Every case study is 20 marks each, and every theoretical questions are 10 marks each. right? And we'll see how this theory will help you write case studies, right? So if you just start from day one, many people have this perception or idea that, sir, I have written this case study, please kindly check. I'll not check. I'll not check till the point I have covered the theoretical portion, right? Because there are many things which you'll need to apply from this theory into these case studies, right? And you'll see for yourself the drastic change which you uh, might have after few classes, right? So as I said, it's an organically linked paper. The concepts in this particular paper is borrowed, as I said, in some of my classes. So this ethics per se is a branch of philosophy, right? Philosophy has four large dimensions. So first is your metaphysics, second is your epistemology, third is your logic, and fourth is your ethics, right? So in metaphysics, philosophy, and what is philosophy? So let me just check if I can have a whiteboard. Hmm. Vijit, we don't get an option of whiteboard here. Hello, Abhijit, you are there? Okay. Currently, I'm not getting in this particular application, but anyways. So what I was saying that I'll make sure we have it from tomorrow, maybe. Philosophy, see, philosophy is made up of two words, philo and sophos, right? Philo means love and sophos means wisdom, right? So philosophy is nothing but love of wisdom, right? Love of knowledge, love of wisdom. Okay. Some people also define philosophy as a critical, evaluative examination of an issue, right? Critical evaluative examination of an issue, right? So any kind of issue, if you see, like any kind of discipline, be it maths, be it your any humanities subject, sociology, psychology, geography, any kind of subject, you tell me, you name the subject, and the highest degree in that particular field is what? Maybe a doctoral or PhD, all of us know, right? Doctor of philosophy, right? So actually what philosophy talks about is the questions, the queries which have already not been raised in the domain of that particular uh, course, that particular subject. Like supposedly take maths, right? So in maths there's certain axioms, certain assumptions, right? On that we deduce, we go on, even during the solving of the problem we make certain assumptions, right? However, when you go doing a PhD in maths, you create knowledge, right? Before PhD, whatever knowledge has been there in that particular domain built up over the years, that is taught to you, right? When you are doing a doctorate, a philosopher in philosophy in mathematics, as in PhD in mathematics, then you kind of create knowledge. How do you create knowledge? You actually question those assumptions. You make, many of you might be doing research, right? So what you do, you actually go beyond what is given to you, right? So any issue there is in that, what you do, you are critically examining it, right? You are evaluating whatever you have been taught, or whatever issues or knowledge is already existing there, right? For creation you need to do that. So in philosophy as a discipline, we generally do not assume anything. We write like a simple question to make you understand what is God, what is life, right? Why we are all here, right? So these kinds of questions, or these are kind of metaphysical questions, there are epistemological questions, right? So in philosophy we generally question the existing knowledge, right? We evaluate, we critically examine those things, right? That's why I'm telling you all these things with a perspective. Perspective is what? Ethics is also called as moral philosophy. Ethics is also called as moral philosophy, right? So why ethics is called a moral philosophy? So see, there is a I don't know how many of you know, but there is something called philosophy of religion. There is something called socio-political philosophy, right? What does that mean? Socio-political philosophy. In socio-political philosophy, whatever, like social philosophy, whatever terms you have in society, what you generally study. I mean, some of the topics like gender, caste, family, right? Whatever you study in your social topic, societal topic, you kind of examine it, right, from a neutral perspective. You critically examine it, evaluate that issue in social philosophy. Similarly, in political philosophy, you have like examining democracy, examining humanism, examining something called sovereignty, something called secularism. There is always a question or a creation of a knowledge on any particular issue or subject, right? So that is a domain of social philosophy. That is a domain. There is a domain of political philosophy. Similarly, there is a domain of philosophy of religion, wherein we question, uh, does God exist, right? What are the proofs for the existence of God? What do you mean by mysticism, right? These kinds of questions are in the domain of philosophy of religion, right? So with this, what I tend to portray is ethics is called moral philosophy. Why? Because in ethics we are doing nothing but examining morality as such. In some of the books, why intentionally I didn't tell you to go into the books there in the market, after this course or even within the course, you can go to places and you'll find that ethics has been considered equivalent to morality, even to the extent that you might find it funny, but even UPSC does not discriminate between ethics and morality at times, right? But when we are studying it in in a proper fashion, then I'll tell you in the coming classes the difference between ethics and morality, right? But with a caveat that UPSC most of the times use these terms interchangeably, right? So what I was saying, that ethics is a moral philosophy because we critically examine morality in the domain of ethics, right? So that's why ethics is moral philosophy. Philosophy is critical evaluation, and moral is related to morality, right? So that was kind of offbeat because this I was telling you about the concepts. It borrows concepts from philosophy, so we'll come to it, how it borrows concepts from philosophy, right? Some of the theories by Kant, some of the theories by Aristotle, right? All of that will be dealt in the course. Similarly, it borrows certain concepts from psychology, right? On specifically the attitude topic. Your topic number 2 in your syllabus is attitude, right? So don't go by the number of topic. In total you have 7 topics here, but the first topic you'll see, it will itself take around about 12 classes or so, right? The first topic, and that is your ethics and human interface. And once we've finished the first topic, ethics and human interface, then we'll kind of gear up and we'll move very very fast. So that's why please pay very attention to the first topic. It will be very beneficial to you. Similarly, it borrows concepts from public administration. In your second part in your syllabus, after so we'll come to the syllabus just in the next slide, but the ethical governance part, your ethics in public administration and probity in governance, that would actually be taking help from your concepts from public administration. Like you might have seen this year's, they have asked social audit, on social audit, right? So similarly, there are many other topics like transparency, accountability, citizen charter, RTI, right? Governance in itself, right? So we'll see certain public administration there, and largely because it's a general studies paper, so you are not expected to be a philosopher, psychologist, or a public administrator. So you have to kind of understand these concepts, but mold it in a layman's language, definitely taking help of other general studies paper, like your paper 1, paper 2, paper 3, whatever you will be studying in your day to day course, that also would be helpful in that this paper. And similarly, this paper will impact those papers as well. If you have this dimension, if you find a capital punishment in your second paper, then you can bring in the ethical dimension of capital punishment there as well, and it will definitely give you certain brownie points. So next is two things which I would expect all of you to keep with yourself in every class, and trust me, these will be your bible for this course: your syllabus and your previous year question papers. Nine, they have started ethics from 2013, I guess, and so in total you'll have 9 question papers and the syllabus, right? So that I would request you to have with yourself always during the classes. And besides that, you can have like this syllabus is something I always advise my students to get by heart, right? To memorize the syllabus, because when and you'll see the effect of it when you will be writing answers, right? So how to link the concept, which is a very important part that you will find when you have your syllabus at hand, right? So these two are very important resource, apart from some of them which I'll be telling you in a short while. Next is, as I said, this is a theory plus application paper, so you will require a lot of the out of the box thinking. Maybe there are some certain things given to you, right? Then like I don't know how many of you would have seen my video of this year's. I just happened to, I mean, my team had just posted it yesterday. But if you go through, they have asked this year, in this year's paper, apart from many other questions, they have asked how you will use emotional intelligence to solve ethical dilemma, right? There is something called ethical dilemma, we'll come to it. And will also study emotional intelligence separately, right? But UPSC very beautifully, as it has always been doing, they have interlinked the two concepts, how emotional intelligence would be helpful in resolving your ethical dilemma, right? So if you understand, if you uh, get into the nitty gritty of both these two terms, you'll by yourself you'll be able to link them. However, in the classes, we'll definitely try to interlink these concepts. But if at all we are not able to do it due to the paucity of time or something, then you kind of the material is the matter and stuff is there with you. You'll just need to think a bit, right? Even if I give you everything here, you you will require thinking, like the quotes and some of the questions, like quotes cannot be done in any class. No course will teach you all the quotes, right? And it's not possible, it's not feasible, and it's not also required. However, how to deal with those quotes question, we'll be dealing in detail, so that you any quote like Eric Erikson, they have asked this year, Eric Erikson, quote by Eric Erikson. I don't know how many of you might have heard his name. I haven't heard his name, right? So but they have asked a quote by him. But it is not expected that you do a PhD on Eric Erikson, but then what he's trying to say, that you need to beautifully put in your answer, what do you understand by it and how it is helpful for a civil servant and those kinds of stuff, right? So so that way, so my point is, you'll need to like keep your uh, mind open while studying and while writing, right? The second thing is your syllabus itself. If you have syllabus with you, just go today and see for yourself. Your syllabus talks about two particular terms: issues and conflicts, right? So what do you mean by issues and conflicts? And throughout this course, we'll be dealing with all kinds of issues, all kinds of conflicts. We'll be dealing it in quite detail, so don't worry. However, if at all you see all your case studies, the second part, leave apart the first part, the theoretical part, the 13 questions, leave apart that. Your 6 questions on case studies is all about the issues and conflicts, right? So issues, for example, gender issues, caste issues, politicization of bureaucracy, right? They have asked this year's refugee issue, migration issue, right? Similarly, there could be hell lot of issues. We actually, know much better than me about all the kind of issues you face in your socio-political life, right? So issues are there. Similarly, conflicts. What are the conflicts? So conflicts arise, in my terminology, conflicts are always there when you have personal, professional, and social interest colliding, right? Either of in these three, in any of the conflict you see, you can find either uh, two of these three interests collide, right? For example, for example, I being a civil servant, I am expected to discharge my duties impartially with an objective bent of mind, like just a second, just a minute. Okay, just put it in. Yeah. So yeah, where was I? I was telling you that conflicts arise when two of these three interests collide. So, take for example the civil servant. He is expected to discharge his duty with impartiality, non-partisanship, with objectivity, going by the rules, right? Whatever there is in civil service code of conduct, and according to the constitutional principles, he should be discharging his duties impartially, right? That is expected out of him. That is his professional duty. However, take a situation wherein this a very poor lady, very old and poor and destitute lady, she comes to this SDM, and she is maybe in her late 80s, and she doesn't have proper documentation, right? And she needs certain the benefit of certain scheme which this particular person, this SDM, he knows that this person should get that benefit of that scheme, right? Maybe certain pension yojana or certain widow pension scheme or those kind of scheme, but this particular lady, destitute old lady, she doesn't have those papers to prove herself on, because when she'll be getting certain benefits of the scheme, this particular person has to showcase that he has done it objectively, right? So one instance, he has this professional duty to go by the rules, right? However, seeing that marginalized destitute lady, he also feels responsible for the welfare, because the primary objective is what, for a civil servant to give back to the society, to have a concern for the marginalized elderly and these kinds of people who are helpless, right? So in this circumstance, you can see that professional versus there's a conflict kind of a situation. How will this civil servant resolve this kind of a conflict? Similarly, there could be another example of personal versus professional conflict, wherein this particular SDM, he has this official vehicle given to him for his for discharging his duty. However, however he has certain personal obligations towards his family, or maybe his child needs an emergency care. He has to run hospital. He doesn't have any other vehicle. He needs to use his official vehicle. So this is a kind of this kind of a scenario won't come, because this is very superficial, but I'm just telling you, this could be built upon in a much better fashion. I'm just giving you an example how personal versus professional interest collide, right? Similarly, personal versus social interest also collides at times, right? So these kind of situations leads to conflicts, and all of us, day in day out, we go through all these kinds of conflicts, right? So these questions which UPSC is asking, particularly through the case studies, are there to analyze and to get to know from you how you deal with such kind of issues or conflicts. At the heart of it, these two are only the scenario. Majorly, these two are scenario. Any of the case study you pick, any of the years, you will find these kinds of things, right? So, that's why in this course and in this paper as such, we need to um, uh, a- every time have a bent of mind towards resolving such kind of conflict. Even day to day life, you get to witness many kinds of conflicts. So through the various theories which we'll see, we'll find how to resolve such cases, and how the different perspectives are there, which you like one of the prominent conflict, or maybe yes, conflict, you can say. Maybe you must have known this example. However, I'm telling it you again. So this is another example. This is a train. This is a train or trolley car, whatever you might want to call it, and this is going in a line. And there are few people, line as in on the track, right? And there are few people, as in say maybe um, three people working out, working here, right, on this track. And uh, while moving this, the brake of the trolley car fails, right? So it might happen that this trolley car, or this train goes and hits and takes lives of these three people, right? At the same time, the driver of the train, he finds that there is a deviation also, right? There is a another deviation where this particular track is not being used. This is a old track and it is not used right now. The mainstream track, the main line is this, and this is a subsidiary line, if you might want to call it. And in this subsidiary line, one person is crossing this line, right? So what should this driver do? Should he go and kill these three people, or should he take a deviation and kill this one, right? This person doesn't know, this particular person, he doesn't know that there is any train would be coming his way. He is just crossing this line, right? This subsidiary line is not being used, right? So what this driver would do? Would he kill three or would he kill one? So such kind of situation, this is just another example, right? So this driver is going into another kind of a conflict, how he will resolve this kind of conflict, right? So we'll see how what various thinkers or philosophers, what they say about this. So yes, now we come to the various myths about this paper. Like I think I've already dealt it in some of my videos, but I'll very quickly tell you that people generally think that there's not much of a preparation required in this particular paper, which I said that that is required. You can talk to any of the students or any of your seniors who will tell you that scoring good definitely requires certain systematic study. It's not simply about case studies, right? So as I told you, this is a very organically linked paper. Your theoretical background would help you in your case studies. Only answer writing is required. uh, no, this would require, this particular paper would require understanding few concepts. And if you like, see, if you are going in a wrong direction, right, then even if you are going quickly, you are anyways going in the wrong direction. That is all about answer writing. If you are not knowing what to write, the right thing to write, then you will keep on writing the same thing ever and ever again in all that kind of question. So at times it's a good idea to brush up your concepts even when you have gone through the whole course. Before your mains, you need to revise, you need to like kind of think, you need to actually borrow certain examples or anecdotes or help from other papers as well. Certain current affairs example, if you get in your newspapers, they will also help you write your answers, right? So it's not just like from day one you start writing, right? So it's, this paper is, see, one of the things which I want to tell you, see, this paper is about the differentiation, largely about right or wrong, good or bad, right? And inherently all of us somewhere or the other know what is right or what is wrong, right? I'll give you a situation. More often than not you'll pick the right choice, right? However, as I'll tell you in the answer writing part as well, the examiner is not interested in which option you choose. This is not your prelims where you choose between A, B, C, D, right? So examiner is more interested and you are more rewarded when you justify what you are choosing. It may be that you choose a wrong choice, right? It may be, right? There's very rare a case, but there are situations when there is a deadlock and some of the people, like in that particular trolley car example, I am pretty sure that many of you would say that this trolley car should go and kill these three people, because that particular one person on the deviation, he doesn't know that this car is coming, right? He has not done anything wrong. However, these three people are knowing that the car is coming, right? So I mean, why to punish that second person, right? However, many of you would say this is about three life versus one life. So in fact, from my own experiences of teaching many many of the students, I know that in fact I get a poll from all of you. You will be kind of, if not equally, then proportionately divided, at least 60-40, I know that. So so there are situations when you need to choose, and there is no strict right or wrong. It's how you justify is important. That's what I wanted to tell you, right? So when we will see deontology and teleology, then you will kind of understand that why people, the teleology people, teleologists would kind of support the driver taking a deviation. However, the deontologist would say, "Ki, no, this is wrong, and the driver should um, uh, kill the three rather than the one." Right. So these are the things. So what I was saying, that inherently all of us know what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad. So more often than not, when we write this particular paper, be it your mock test or be it UPSC, you tend to feel that yes, I am an emotional person, I am a person with instincts and with conviction, and if I am inherently good, I tend to write what I find good in one particular circumstance, what is right. And to your wonderful surprise, although you have written a great answer by your own standards, you'll not get great marks, right? And there's a reason behind it, right? You'll feel good definitely writing, but there are certain demands, certain expectations, certain way of writing, and that's one part. And the second part is when you write with your gut and instincts and your emotions, then in more often than not, invariably, you'll not be able to complete this paper. Trust me for that. Right. So this paper is one place wherein you'll many of the students find really challenging to complete this 250 marks paper in 3 hours, right? Just because they go with their instinct and emotions, right? So you need to know where to start, where to stop. That's a fundamental, I would say, a core issue with this paper. Is even apart from the knowledge, you need to know how to attempt this paper in examinations, right? That's why this is a bit different from your normal general studies and your optional paper. Next is as I said, it can because it requires a bit of study, so obviously it cannot be done, I feel it cannot be done in the last leg of the preparation. However, uh, telling all of this, you will find many of the interviews, even top rankers, they have said that they went in the examinations, they wrote with their own what they say, whatever they felt is right, and they got great marks, right? So always and every time there is an exception, you must understand that. And what I would advise as a civil services trainer, or as my own personal experience of uh, like starting from this paper from scratch to whatever I got in this, I think, I feel you should devote certain time to it, right? Definitely, it's effortless, I'll tell you. At the very first instance, it will not require the energy you would require for your sociology, definitely. But then if at all it gives you return by 70-80 marks in one paper itself, then I think it's a wise decision to study this paper. And another thing is, like I said in my analysis video of this year's paper as well, um, UPSC for last 9 years somehow has kept its questions revolving around a few topics, revolving around what syllabus they have put in there, right? So there's nothing like out of the blue kind of a question, right? Maybe they have asked one time John Rawls justice, but maybe the person who knows, he'll write and still he'll not be able to write because actually they had asked this question of critically analyze Rawls' theory of justice, wherein you need to think that you need to bring Amartya Sen as well, right? We'll be dealing all these theories also, but then leaving apart few instances, largely this paper has been predictable by my standards, right? So you'll not be seeing a lot of surprises here, and it's not like anything could be asked. There are few topics, very limited topics, and the questions every year somewhere or the other are revolving around those, right? uh, the strategy to go about this course would be, I would expect you to learn whatever the basics I'm giving you right now. Besides that, I said that you need to keep your question papers and your syllabus at hand, and some of the resources, some of the books, because I know whatever I say here, many of you might be interested in doing certain research work, going the extra mile, which is good. If at all you find time from your other commitments, other papers, then definitely go and research and take as much knowledge as possible. However, the whole intent and point of me teaching you is uh, me researching on those subjects rather than and saving your time, right? So that would, I guess, help you in focusing on other important things in your life, I mean other papers of UPSC. So don't worry much, we'll take care of everything. So, and I'll tell you wherever I find or wherever I need you to study something, I'll give you the, in fact, the reference notes, and you can go through it, right? As I said, keep looking at your syllabus and previous year's papers, because it acts as the cue. Cue, I think, if you know, cue is something, a ball, kind of, if you have played snooker or billiards, and then there's a cue, there's a I mean if you want to play it well, you need a direction, kind of directional drilling. In drilling we use directional drilling kind of a technique. Similarly, to hit that ball you need a cue, right? So similarly, this paper and syllabus, I'm emphasizing and re-emphasizing it again, because it will keep you on track, right? It will not let you deviate because of the various loads of material available on the subject. uh, Also, as I said, please try and apply wherever you think it fits. Anything, if you could take it in from here which is helpful in your life, apart from UPSC, I think that would be commendable. And yes, next point is, I would like you, while you're studying your general studies paper, I like you to make a notes, as I say it, a compendium, right? In your compendium, apart from the class notes which I'm giving you, or maybe there only you leave certain spaces and keep on filling, you can write examples, you can write anecdotes, you can write a certain smaller case study, right? You can write few quotes, right? uh, Similar kind of a thing, right? When you read maybe your newspaper, maybe your optional paper, maybe your polity, right? So and what are these examples or anecdotes would be, that you will develop when you go through this course, right? So then you will know what to take down, what is important from an ethical perspective. Many of them I'll be giving you in classes. However, for the novelty part of it, because I'd not expect you to write the same examples in, I mean, many of the students ask me, sir, do you have a comprehensive list of examples? And many of the, in fact, means interview appearing students ask me so. But I say that I do not have any ready-made exhaustive list of examples. right? And I prefer not to have it, because intentionally, because I would want you to do that effort on your part. So one of the effort, like I said, would be taking down these examples and anecdotes and quotes, definitely, which will enrich your answers, right? So this class notes, your compendium, and the question paper and syllabus, these four things, I guess, would be the base, would be the crux, or would be the only thing which you might need for appearing in your general studies paper for mains, right? uh, yes, so I've written it there. Class notes, reference matter, compendium, ARC. Whatever important I'll find in ARC. I've kept few, one or two classes just on the ARC, and in fact, in the midst also, when we'll be dealing with ethics in governance part, then I'll borrow many things from ARC, right? So if you want, you can have that ARC report on governance, right? Uh, Ethics in governance. So that that is a good resource. And if at all, besides this, if at all you want to refer to any of the basic books like lexicon, Subbarao, that is completely up to you, right? If you want to know more, right? However, if I tell you to stop, please stop, because you'd ask me certain questions which I know would not be helpful to you in your exam. So I don't think there's a point going much into it, right? So because not to name anyone, but books are generally, I mean, written from an altogether different bent of mind and altogether different aim, right? So that's why I say that you can take any of the books, maybe lexicon, if it is that is if that is understandable to you. It's a small book, you can maybe go through it very quickly. Then yes, exam strategy. So this is something which I would come to it in the answer writing part, but generally what I find and what I was telling you, that it's very hard to complete this paper within 3 hours. uh, you need to allocate 1.5 hours to your case study and 1.5 hours to your theory. Generally, people start with the case study, they write 2 hours, right? And then they are hardly left with an hour, and then they somehow scribble something in the paper for that, those 13 theory questions, and incidentally land up somewhere between 60 to 80 marks, right? So that's one of a disaster kind of a strategy. So that's why I always and every time advise my students to start with case study. For sure, start with case study. There is a reason behind it, I'll tell you sometime else. But then you need to keep a timer even while you are practicing, not now, but when you are writing your mock tests. Then keep, like, you should limit that I will not write beyond 1.5 hours, right? In a case, in the total 6 case studies. And beyond that, you have dedicated 1.5 hours for your theory questions, and that should be reasonably good enough for you to get good marks in this paper. So now we come to the syllabus. Uh, the syllabus I have divided into 3 parts. So the part 1, as I said, is about ethics and human interface. In this, we'll know all about ethics, how ethics is related to other terms like values, morality, religion, law, right? How ethics is not all these terms. Similarly, we'll study about the dimensions of ethics. What are normative ethics, what are meta ethics, what are like descriptive ethics. And further in normative ethics, we'll go into various theories like deontology, teleology, virtue ethics, principles of justice, care ethics, Gandhi, right? Rights and duties, All of that we'll be dealing in the dimension of ethics. And definitely this ethics and is majorly studied from the human aspect of it. So the fundamental of ethics is humanism. So from next class onwards, I'll start with what is humanism, right, first of all. And that is somewhere or the other, that is the core of ethics. So first of all, you need to understand what is humanism, and how ethics gets built upon it, right? So humanism is the core of ethics that I wanted to say. Then we will come to this value topic. In value, we'll study the what are values, how it is related to every time. Every other year they are asked, even this year they have asked, tell me 5 ethical traits, 10 values, right? How they are important for civil servants. Last year they asked how come ethics are different from values, right? So these are the kinds of questions, very, very, very famous for UPSC questions. So you'll need to understand what are values, and in this value only we'll be talking about the fundamental value of civil services. Right, fundamental value of civil servants, in which we'll study few of the values which are already there in your syllabus, and some of the values which are not mentioned in your syllabus, but then UPSC has been asking those values, like fortitude, like pro-social behavior, like so fortitude is not mentioned in your syllabus, right? However, UPSC has asked at least 4 times this particular value, right? Similarly, we'll talk about pro-social behavior. Similarly, we'll talk about like broad mental reservation, right? So these are the things we'll be talking about in value topic. Then we'll come to the attitude topic, attitude, in which we'll be talking a lot about this particular topic, attitude. I'll ask you to go through NCRT, right? So there's a NCRT psychology book. In that you have attitude topic, 12th NCRT, I believe, right? So there you have this attitude topic. I'll largely be concentrating my lectures around that book, that particular uh, uh, book, that particular topic, attitude. However, many of the other things which you will be requiring, that I'll be giving you in the lectures, right? So attitude building, how to change attitude, all about persuasion, social influence, those kinds of things we'll be studying in attitude. And then we'll come to emotional intelligence. What are the aspects, what are the four, how Goldman uh, views emotional intelligence. And Daniel Goleman, he's the man behind this emotional intelligence, right? What are the four aspects to emotional intelligence, right? So we'll see that, and how emotional intelligence is helpful for an administrator, right? So these four would be these four would be your would build your sound ethical base, if I have to say it that ways, right? So this is essentially your, I would say, the theoretical portion I'm talking about, or uh, the basics of ethics, right? And these things and some things from public administration would be applied in this particular part 2 of your course, wherein we'll be studying all about governance. We'll be studying about RTI, citizen charter, transparency and accountability, and what else? We'll be studying about ethical dilemmas, right? And code of ethics, code of conduct, all of this we'll be studying in this part, right? And the third part would be about your application based upon these two, which will be helpful in this third part, wherein we'll be almost discussing all the tough questions which UPSC has asked in case study, that we'll be discussing. I'll be giving you a day to read those questions. I mean, I'll be taking maybe 5 to 6 questions in a class. We'll be discussing it in detail, those case studies. I'll be honestly, I'll be restricting myself to these 9 years papers for certain reasons, right? And besides that, if I feel there's something else required, like applied ethics, they have asked just international ethics, environmental ethics, business ethics, so to say, right? However, I'll give you certain other things like ethics in abortion, like ethics in sterilization, like they have asked this time cyber ethics, digital, they have asked, but then cyber ethics is related to it, bioethics is there, and various other things. If time permits, then we'll take up in your applied ethics, because these three are most important. I mean, these things we do or not, not much of a problem, but then environmental ethics, international ethics, and business ethics, these we must do, we will do, right? I'll give you notes also for this, international ethics, environmental ethics, and your business ethics. In business ethics, we have something called corporate governance and corporate social responsibility, so we'll talk about that as well. And the last part, last maybe 1 or 2 classes, would be dedicated to the philosophers and thinkers. I'll very quickly take you around Indian and Western philosophy. I'll give you a kind of story, so to say, right? So as you understand, right from Socrates and Plato till your existentialism, Heidegger, and things like that. I'll not specifically giving you notes. If you find, if you go through any of the books in market, you will get hell lot of philosophers. And so to tell you, I have a background in philosophy. In my time, I appeared in interview just because of my philosophy. So uh, that ways, if I intentionally want to showcase my knowledge and skill sets, then maybe I can take 5 classes or start with philosophy and give you all of that, but then it won't be much helpful to you. I want you to score well in ethics. That's why I'll keep myself restricted to the kind of knowledge which might help in your answer writing, right? So that's why I have intentionally kept it at the last. However, in your syllabus, it's the fifth number topic, contribution of moral thinkers and philosophers. If you see, they haven't asked any philosophy by far in 9 years. Strictly, they haven't asked any particular philosopher, but how they ask it, they ask it through your quotes, right? So they'll give one quote, and you will be asked to say what all do you understand with it, how it is applied, and all of that, right? So so I think that whatever is required will be given to you in due course. Next, we come to the question paper analysis. So some of the questions in the last 8 years, including this one, ninth year, they have asked largely these types of questions. So the first is the terminology or concepts based questions, like they have directly asked on ethics, values. What are ethics, what are values, how is ethics different from values, what do you understand by voice of conscience, what do you understand by property, what is the difference between integrity and maybe integrity and impartiality, that kind of a thing. Not exactly the difference, but they have asked in this year paper one separate question on integrity and one separate question on impartiality. If you see my video uploaded last night, so I have dealt that integrity question, I have given certain glimpse on it, right? So we'll anyways do it in our classes. So these are direct terms based, concepts based questions. Then they have asked opinion based questions, like your particular opinion on one particular issue, like politics and ethics don't go together, what is your view, right? Similarly, other issue based questions like sexual violence, migration, caste discrimination, right? Quotes and proverbs, they have been asking every year. Three quotes they generally ask three quotes, and they want your point of view on that quote, right? So the person who has quoted, he's not important. Let me again repeat it. That person is not important, but what he has said is important. What you gain from it is important, and how do you portray it, that is important, right? So and that is about courts. Applied ethics, they have asked environmental ethics, ethics in international relations, right? Meta ethics, I'll tell you, while I go into the, as in, the typology, the, I mean, what types of ethics are there. So then I'll say what is meta ethics. But then just to brief you here, meta, anything which is beyond is meta, right? So metaphysics is beyond physics, right? Similarly, meta ethics is kind of beyond ethics, so to understand. So like in descriptive ethics, we study one thing. In normative ethics, like, say for example, happiness, right? So what is happiness to you? This is a meta ethical question, right? However, when you give alms to a beggar, you feel happy, right? This is a descriptive ethics statement, right? Similarly, normative ethics would question in a different way, right? So same issue, questions in different way. But in UPSC, they have asked certain meta-ethical questions as well, like, what is happiness? What does happiness mean to you? Uh, in fact, this question would be your today's assignment. I'll give it to you towards the end of the class. Uh, Somewhere in 2013 or 14, they have asked this question: what does happiness means to you? Right? So, and then they have asked about trust, and they have asked about patriotism. These are meta-ethical questions. Similarly, governance related question they ask every year, almost every year. They have asked social audit this 2021. They have asked about RTI, corruption, conflict, sorry, code of ethics and code of conduct, right? So these are governance related questions. And obviously, again, our famous case studies on all the general issues and conflicts which we face in our day-to-day life, particularly related to a civil servant. Largely conflicts would be related to a civil servant, unless until there are certain individual conflicts as well, when you, I mean, day in day out, when you kind of go through certain interest in your professional life, wherein your own um, personal interest kind of collide with your professional interest, then that kind of a situation could also come, right? But largely they have restricted themselves to your civil public administrator kind of work he does, because he generally day in day out he has to go through all these kinds of conflict. So how an administrator would, and how particularly this paper or ethics or theory would help you resolve all these kinds of conflict, that we'll see in the case studies answer writing part, right? So these are the kind of questions asked. Next comes your famous question. I guess most of you might be having this question about resources, which books to refer to, what all to study. So these are some of the resources which you can go through. As I said, previous year paper syllabus is the number one. Your class notes, any kind of other reference material which I provide, your own compendium about your quotes, your anecdotes, your case study, whatever. Like, just to give you an example, what kind of anecdotes you can write. A few years back, when I was preparing, I got through this good work by this person called Prashant Nair. Prashant Nair was the district magistrate of Kozhikode. I'm not sure whether he's still there, but he had actually launched a scheme called Operation Suleimani. I know probably some of you might have heard about it. Operation Suleimani, launched by Prashant Nair, DM of Kozhikode. So in this was a scheme in which actually the people of that particular district, when they went to any kind of restaurant or any kind of dine-in places, then they by their own, I mean voluntarily, they uh, deposited a few cents, few kind of certain contribution in that Suleimani box. There was a box named Suleimani box, right? And this particular rupee, this particular contribution, monetary benefit, this was used to feed the people who were marginalized in that particular district, these rickshaw pullers, these beggars, and these kinds of people who could not feed themselves. They were not only fed, but they were fed very with dignity, right? They were properly given a place to sit, and it was not like throwing a doll or throwing arms to them, right? So they, with all their dignity intact, they were fed with the contribution of the people of that district, right? So this was a great scheme, hugely successful, and actually adopted in various other districts of the country as well. And I found it very lucrative and very impressive, right? In fact, I used in one of my answers, if I remember it correctly. So this is one kind of anecdote you can use. One anecdote, if I can remember, was there was a person way back. These are not obviously these recent examples. I'm just giving you, hinting you what all you can take from your newspapers or whatever you go through day in day out, right? So there was this man in Orissa somewhere, some district, I don't remember. And this person was very poor, and he had lost his wife, right? He had lost his wife, and that but he didn't had the resources to do the last rites, right? So what he and he was far away from his home, or that kind of a situation. So this particular person, he carried the dead body of his wife on his shoulders for a long, I mean long, sufficient long distances, and it was captured by the newspapers. It came into the Hindu and all. But that actually showed, I mean that kind of, that particular instance showed the apathy of maybe the society, you can say, or the empathy towards that person, maybe compassion, or that kind of a all these kinds of adjectives, or all these kinds of values which we'll be studying in our course. You can have such kind of examples in your notes, right, in your compendium, so to say, right? And these examples would definitely differ individual to individual. But these examples and these kinds of anecdotes, quotes on, many quotes on Gandhi, trust me, every year in some or the other form, UPSC asks Gandhi, some way or the other they would ask Gandhi. So and you can get innumerable quotes on Gandhi, which will be actually be applicable in some or the other situation, right? So similarly, you can take jot down certain quotes which you find that you can use at this particular place, maybe environment, maybe that famous quote of Gandhi on environment, need or greed one. Similarly, you can take some example on integrity, some example on empathy, right? These kinds of things. So eventually you will understand what all would comprise your compendium. While we do our lectures, you'll kind of get what to take down and what not, right? So next one is your basic, any basic book, like I said, lexicon, Subarao, or anything, any upcoming book in the market, whatever you can get hang of it, you just take it and just go through it if at all you have sufficient time, right? Don't waste your time, I would say. Use it very intelligently. And then is your ARC report on ethics in governance. There is also a book by Ramesh Arora for ethics in governance. This is a very good book if at all you find time. Patrick J. Sharon. This book, Ethics in Public Administration, Patrick J. Sharan, this is a very good book I've personally found. So you can, maybe if you have time, if you can go through it. So similarly, William K. Frankena, this is another book, another good book on ethics. You have NCRT on psychology. This will be specifically used for that attitude topic, which I said. There is a IGNU matter on ethics. I also said you will be using your newspapers, your GS, your optional for mm, basically building upon your compendium, right? And if at all you are more interested, then you can go through OP Goba. That is a book on socio-political philosophy. There's a lecture on YouTube by Michael Sandel. He's a Harvard professor. He's actually a justice, but he takes lecture in Harvard. So that train example, trolley example, I've picked up from his lecture, right? So yes, so that's also good. And autobiography and speeches, people ask me, mm, then there are many. I mean, Gandhi's experiment with truth might be helpful, but these all are for people who are more interested apart from the class, or maybe after UPSC, once you qualify you can go through them. uh, Next is answer writing. uh, so we have just 3 more slides. Yeah. So see, answer writing is something which will be coming to it. I mean, within class also, towards the end of it also. But to start with, because I'll be giving you this assignment today. This is your assignment for today. Get your syllabus and previous year question papers. And this is the question: all human beings aspire for happiness. Do you agree? What does happiness mean to you? Explain with example. So write it down. This particular question, I also tell you the year. So this was 2014, I think. 14 there was. Yes, 14. Question number 1A is this one. 2014. Question number 1A. All human beings aspire for happiness. Do you agree? What does happiness mean to you? Right? I'll not be able to correct it out at the means in a day or two. But yes, you write down and we will discuss. Maybe not tomorrow, then day after we'll discuss this question, and then you might get certain perspective on what to write, what else maybe you could have written on it, right? So write it for your own sake. I'll not be correcting it, but then we'll be discussing this question, right? All human beings aspire for happiness. Do you agree? What does happiness mean to you? I've intentionally taken this question because this probably would not require a lot of ethics knowledge as such, but then I would like to see your perspective on it and give my own. So yes, answer writing. So first of all is answer what is asked, right? I Same question on integrity. They have asked integrity, I guess, nothing less than 10 times, right? No, 10 is more because they have just 9 years paper. Yeah, maybe 5 or 6, 7, 8 times they have asked integrity, right? But in every year, because as you see, it's the paper is ethics, integrity, aptitude, right? So uh, by virtue of it, they have to ask integrity somehow or the other. But every year, the answer to the integrity question would vary, because The question they are asking at the at the core of it is integrity, but they want the demand of the question is different, right? So that you need to see. That's why I've said very, very important. People don't give a lot of due importance to this, but the first point is very important. Answer what is asked of you, right? Please do read the question twice, right? There was a question, I remember there was a question on gender. That person wrote everything, as in he started with Tulsi Das, he went to like I don't know what philosophers he read, and what all feminism, he wrote everything whatever he knew, but what the question was asking was completely different, right? He wrote a good amount of it, but then what is asked, you need to address that, right? The second point is multidimensionality. So it is expected that, like, even in integrity question, please do go to the video which was uploaded yesterday. um, I have, if you see, intentionally mentioned the point of empathy towards the end of it, because when you are writing integrity, you bring in another dimension, like even in your optional paper as well, even in your uh, general studies, you bring, generally people say that you should write on sociological dimension, economic dimension, and political dimension of one particular issue. So here it's not like social and economic and polity wise, but here you need to like kind of interlink concept multidimensionally. What I mean to say is, you just don't focus on what is being asked, right? Have a bird's eye view and kind of interlink the concept, right? That's why your case study writing becomes very, very important, and it's very, very difficult, trust me, because you can only write a good case, only write a good solution to the case if and only if you have studied rest of the portion very thoroughly, and it is on your tips, then and only then. Because for writing a good solution for a case, if you are not able to bring certain concepts studied in somewhere else in the topic, then it becomes very difficult, right? So multidimensionally from that point of view is very important. Generally the approach we follow in every UPSC question is, even in your so this answer writing would be helpful for your general studies and your optional papers. So generally we talk about the issue, we give a constructive criticism if required, and a solution towards that. So Ritika, I see that you have raised a hand. Just let me finish it. I'll just take 10 more minutes maybe, and then we'll take up the questions, right? Just keep the questions with you. Maybe you could type it in the chat box, or maybe Ashutosh would help us to unmute the people one by one. So just give me 10 minutes. So answer writing is about issue, critic, and solution. Issue means what is being asked. If at all there is certain constructive criticism you find on that particular issue, you give that criticism and then provide solution. It's not it's not desired that you write just the criticism. Sorry. If you mention the critic of an issue, you need to give a solution, right? um, Intro, body, conclusion is the standard thing in all the questions we need to follow. In the conclusion part, generally it is preferred that you give a long term view to the issue at hand. Just understand or get whatever you can through whatever I'm saying. If at all you are not able to get anything, then when we'll come to actual answer writing, you will be able to take that thing. Again, here in this particular paper, unlike others, uh, integrity, like supposedly they have asked integrity, you need to give examples of it. You have to give examples, right? Maybe it's not demanded elsewhere, but if at all here they have like the last this year's question they have asked justify with illustration, so they have intentionally asked examples, but had it was not there, had they not asked even explicitly, then also you need to provide examples, then also you need to say that because through examples only you are able to bring novelty to your answer and to impress upon examiners that you actually understand the concept, right? So examples for that matter becomes very very important, especially in the first part, the 13 questions which are there on theory. Their examples are important. The ethical principles are also to be used, ethical principles like whatever we'll be talking about, deontology, teleology, those kinds of things. Many teachers or many students would say not to use these terms, right? But you have two choices. When I'll be teaching you those theories, then I'll tell you either you could mention the theory name, or else if you don't want to mention it, I leave it to your fine sense of judgment. But what is there, the crux of that theory, you definitely need to mention, right? So in deontology, excuse me, sorry. In deontology you need to mention that how means are important more than the ends, so that kind of crux of that theory is to be mentioned. If at all you don't want to name it, then also you need to mention that ethical principle. That's what I want to say. Similarly, anecdotes, quotes, constitutional principles as in your secularism, sovereignty, preamble essentially, right? Your liberty, equality, fraternity, democracy, right? The gist of it, the spirit of it, you need to know. Your preamble, in your answers, your preamble, fundamental right, and directive principle of state policy. These would essentially, and Supreme Court judgments. These would essentially comprise of the constitutional principles, right? So when writing case studies, you can also substantiate from the law perspective or the this principle of the constitution, right? Similarly, thinkers and philosophers, which we'll be talking about in the class, uh, again, use the terms of the syllabus. That is, for that thing only I've told you to keep your syllabus handy. In fact, towards the end of it you can memorize it as well, so that in your answers those things come out, right? Now, for writing a great answer, I think all of us have watched this movie Sholay, right? So this movie became one of the biggest hits of all times, uh, because if you see through that, it has all the components in it, be it romance, be it thrill, be it violence, be it, I mean, that kind of thing, be it comic, right? So all of that is there. So similarly in writing, I'm not telling you to do it for every other answer, but some of the answers in the initial part of it, when you are attempting the paper, very I mean, first 6 7 8 answers should be such that actually impresses the examiner, like wow, what, I mean, that kind of a feeling, right? So it doesn't matter that you bring everything exhaustively, right? You write teleology in all the answers, no, it is not expected, but then overall a feeling of wow should come. I mean, by reading your answer, it should be like balanced kind of answer, balanced, like, and that's where your principles, your examples, and your multidimensionally, all of that would help, right? Again, you need to be practical in your solutions, yet succinct. Succinct, UPSC in its syllabus only mentioned that succinct and brevity would be awarded more. So you need to be direct, not beating about the bush. Be- Uh, Point wise, wherever possible, short para, underlining, diagrams, flowcharts, all of that to actually make your answers presentable, beautify, right? Stakeholder analysis is something which is largely related to case study. There we have multiple stakeholders and how one particular decision would impact various stakeholders at hand. That that is stakeholder analysis, which generally is opted as one of the solution in case study writing. So that is also many students opt for it. Similarly, short-term, long-term solution, means and approach, advantages, disadvantages, critics and measures. These are various facets on which you can um, elaborate, extrapolate, right? You can make it like sounding that multidimensionality I talked about here. This multidimensionality would come from all these things, right? Next is these are some of the additional things which might help you in writing some good answers, like your sustainable development goals, human rights, rule of law, principle of natural justice. As I said, constitution, may fundamental duties, fundamental rights, DPSP, preamble, Supreme Court judgment. In the posts, you have second ARC, which in ethics in governance part would be helpful. Similarly, rules and regulations, you can quote certain civil service conduct rules, code of conduct, code of ethics. Uh, what These are the principles: deontology, teleology, virtue ethics, feminist ethics, justice, rights, contract, social contract theory, and certain philosophers in Indian and Western, which is there: Gandhi, Vivekananda, Buddha, Plato, Aristotle, Rawls, right? So these are some of the things, not all, but these are some of the inputs, some of the things which you can explore while preparing and while writing some of the good answers, right? So that's what I wanted to tell you today. Now I can open the floor for questions and any of your doubts, right? So either you could type it in the chat box, or Ashutosh is there. Ashutosh? आशुतोष जी, इस इनको जो भी हैंड रेज करेंगे एक एक करके इनको अनम्यूट कर दीजिएगा. So any of the questions, any one of you would like to? Ritika had some question, I guess. Ritika, you have any question? No, you are not audible.
So I'm on mute
Yes,
now. I
yes.
did have a question, but I think you had addressed it in the later part of the presentation
Okay,
regarding the sources and how to go about the answer writing and everything.
okay, okay. Anyone else? Please move back to second last slide. Okay, this is this one is the second last slide. So if you don't have any question, you can leave. Uh, Anyone having any question? What would be expected of us in the question that you just sent, sir? Okay, so the, the expectation. See, I've told you certain aspect of answer writing here, right? I would definitely not expect you to take all these things into consideration while writing this answer, but then it's just a simple question on all human beings aspire for happiness. So If you want me to discuss it right now, I'll not do it. Whatever you feel, please go ahead and write down. When I'll be discussing it, I'll tell you what are the aspects to it and what all you can write it.
So what would what marker is it? Is it a 10 marker or a
10
20
marker,
marker?
10
Because
marker, 10 marker,
10.
10 marks.
All right.
Yes. So generally, it's like in 10 marks question, you are like few people have this question like, should I write 1 page or 2 page? So generally in UPSC, you get 2 pages for the 10 marker question. And for the 20 marker, you get around about 3 to 4 pages, right? 20 marker as in, which is your case study, right? So I mean, exactly. There's no as such word limit. I think for like 10 markers, some of you would write 100 words or 150 words or maybe 200 words as well. But see, if you go to 200 words or completely filling the 2 pages for all these 13 questions, then I guess somewhere or the other you'll have to sacrifice your timing and all, right? So essentially, it is kind of answering the question, so to say. I generally prefer it. What is asked, if you have addressed that, that could be addressed maybe in one and a half page. At times, it might take you 2 pages, but generally, I think 1 to 1.5 page is fine. 1.5 page should be written for the 10 marks question. Similarly, for the case study, it takes around about 3 pages. So, Avinash, I will discuss it later. First, you write down, and then I'll discuss it. Right? Is it necessary to practice daily answer writing? If yes, how many answers should be written on daily basis? Not now, I would say. I believe it is for ethics. In the initial few portion, like if you see this slide, when I said that we'll be dealing with that part one. Once you are finished with this part one, then you can begin your regular answer writing, right? In between also, I may give you certain assignments. I'll give you certain questions to write down, right? It is not there's no fit solution to it, like you have to write 3 4 questions a day. But I would prefer that you generally take down whatever is there in the class. You first of all understand the concepts, and then you begin writing, rather than writing from day one itself. Whatever is important, I've said happiness question, so write down happiness, right? And some of the aspects which I find that might enrich your answer, I'll tell you when I'll be discussing it. What else? So next question is, can we give examples with reference to high court judgments? Yes, but Supreme Court judgments are more like preferable, because yeah, right? So if there's no question, I guess we kind of we may leave. Yes, sir. Between writing in points and in short para, which is better? So yes, so it depends upon the nature of the question, and like I personally prefer writing in points, right? However, at times it is not always possible to write in points, right? So I kind of mix it, right? So I'd write a para maybe, and then I'll give certain advantages in points, disadvantages in points, right? But however, maybe the conclusion part of it I cannot write it in points. So you can maybe smartly mix that thing, right? So it all depends on the question, the nature of the question. But definitely you are the, like when you showcase through your points that okay, you have written this, but supposedly a question has two parts to it, and you write four parts in the first part, 4 points for the first part and 4 points in the second part, then kind of it is very visible to the examiner that yes, you have addressed both the parts. In fact, uh, you can use subheadings as well, right? So there are two parts to the question, you can write the subheading as well in the question, so that examiner knows that you have written both the parts, right? And in that subheading you can mention the points, right? So it all depends upon the presentation, right? You can make maybe certain flow chart, you can make certain diagrams also. Like supposedly, to give you an example, supposedly a corruption question is there. So we'll discuss it in detail in class. But in corruption, maybe the causes of corruption, you can write the social causes, the political causes, right? The economic cause, right? So you can this way maybe represent it, and here in social cause you can go on elaborating, right? So that ways in one particular diagram only you can present that you have addressed the multiple aspect to corruption, right? So that's just an example, right? It all depends upon you. There's no one size fits all approach. Some people prefer paragraph writing, they are also getting good marks. It I mean, just understand that psyche of your paper checker who is in his maybe 50s, late 50s. He should not be strained while seeing your answer. That's the whole point, right? Your the point maybe underlining. Why underlining is important? Because you want those things to be presented at one glance to your examiner, the paper corrector, right? So that's about it.
Yes, sir. So I have a question. It
Yeah.
is, I think once the classes progress and we'll have more questions, all of us. And for the next class, you mentioned that you'll be starting with humanism. So
Hmm.
I just wanted to be, prepared for the class. Is there any source that we can refer to?
No, I told you this is a book. There's a book by O.P. Gauba, Socio-Political Philosophy, right? There, if you want, you can go through. But see, humanism, I'll not go into very detail of it, right? Humanism standalone is a topic in socio-political philosophy, and this is a book on socio-political philosophy. It's good 10 pages you'll have to study on humanism. I mean, there are various aspects to it. I'll just whatever is required, the flow of it, and then also you'll not
Sure.
get all that humanism which I'll be telling you, right? So that flow from like where humanism started, where it all, right, from like Plato till, I mean, existentialism. In that way, I'll take you. You'll not find it in one book. That's what I want to tell you, right?
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, yeah. So hopefully, it was. I mean, the first class gave you certain perspective, and formally we'll start from the next class on. Uh, let's hope to make the best out of it. Yeah. Happy studying. All the best.